Hey guys, today's video is going to be a bronzer comparison. We do have two bronzers from Charlotte Tilbury. One is the Airbrush Bronzer that I really love, and this has actually been out for a while. And we're going to be comparing it to the Beautiful Skin Bronzer, which is this brand new bronzer from Charlotte Tilbury. There's a lot of distinct differences between the two, of course, formulation-wise, application-wise. So we're going to get started with that for sure. And I do have some thoughts. So overall, they're kind of like two reviews in this video, as well as comparing the two to see which one might be the best fit for you if you're deciding to pick up a Charlotte Tilbury bronzer. So let's get started. So first of all, I want to talk about the brand new Beautiful Skin Sun Kiss Glow Bronzer from Charlotte Tilbury. So this is actually her newest one, and you can see the packaging is super beautiful. It's got really nice reflective packaging. You can see it's kind of like that gorgeous gold color with that beautiful logo in the center. It's kind of like a sun with rays sticking out of it, if you can kind of see what I'm talking about. So it's like ultra reflective. It's bouncing off of all of my lights, but this is a really stunning package for sure. You have the name on the back of it, Beautiful Skin Bronzer. This is actually a cream bronzer. So this is going to be the first difference between the two. This one is a cream formulation. The other one is a powder. So this cream bronzer has hyaluronic acid in it, also apparently has vitamin D in it, which is kind of cool given that we do get vitamin D from the sun. So this is supposed to be a smoothing, healthy looking glow. It's for face and body. And when you actually open up the bronzer, you can see it's got a really nice mirror. It's very large, just like the size of the pan. We have a full size mirror to look at if you're looking at applying this on the go. And we do have, of course, this beautiful swirl detailing. This is actually a bronzer I've used a couple of times now. So the embossment CT was actually in there a little bit deeper at the beginning, but now it's sort of fading away. And this is like a swirl design that is similar to another cream bronzer that we all really love, which is from Chanel. This is the Le Beige cream bronzer from Chanel. My bronzer is a little bit destroyed, a little bit messy, but I have used this for a while, and basically what I'm trying to say is that this swirl design is clearly inspired by this product because it has been out for some time. Chanel has reformulated their bronzer since the original already, so this is one that has a very similar swirl, not quite as thin, but you know, the same kind of vibes compared to the Chanel. Now the shade that I picked up is Fair, and this is a very interesting shade. I do want to tell you guys right off the top that it sort of pulls a little bit more cool tone than I thought for a bronzer. Sort of reminds me of a contour versus a bronze color, and this could just be because of this particular shade. Now in the bronzer we're going to be comparing this to, which is the matte bronzer here. I actually wear the shade medium, so I probably should have picked up the medium shade in this one as well, but I figured because it was a cream and I was kind of like, oh, if it's too dark, I don't want to have to buff it into my skin, and I was really worried that it was going to be too dark at the medium shade, but it actually could be probably more of a warmer shade overall compared to this one. I'm going to show you guys the swatch here so you guys can see, but it really is quite cool toned comparatively. It is really creamy and stuff, but you can see that this is much more of a cool toned bronzer than I thought it would be. So this is the Fair shade in the Charlotte Tilbury, and just for comparison's sake, because I know I might get some questions, this is the Le Beige Soleil Tan Bronze Universal. This is going to be a lot warmer than the Charlotte Tilbury. I can already tell. Oh yeah. The Le Beige also feels a little bit more on the thinner side for consistency, and you can see here the difference. It's quite stark. So the Charlotte Tilbury is the deeper one, and then the Chanel is actually the lighter one there. But when it comes to kind of how they feel on the skin, they actually apply very similarly as well. So we'll get to that next. Now, although I'm actually a big fan of the Chanel Le Beige bronzing cream, I do have a application tip that applies perfectly with the Charlotte Tilbury as well. So keep in mind, these are cream products, and any like really fluffy brush is really not going to do it. So I suggest doing a very dense brush or using a sponge applicator. So if your brush is too fluffy, it's not going to blend as nicely for you. So that's also just kind of a heads up there. And this formulation compared to Chanel is a little bit stiffer. That is just my thought. It doesn't mean that it's a bad product per se, but I feel like the Chanel one has a little bit more slip. This is one that's a little bit on the stiffer side. For me, just so you guys know, they are the same price. So they are $56 US or 69 Canadian for each product. This is the medium in the Airbrush Matte Bronzer, and it's just a totally different look overall because this is a powder. It's very airbrushed and diffused on the skin. You can see as I'm applying it that it really is super beautiful, much more flexible when it comes to how you can apply it. You can use multiple different brushes for this. I think a denser brush will give you more pigment. A fluffy brush will make it a little bit, more airbrushed and lighter on the skin, and you can blend it out really well. But I think this is one that if you're a beginner in particular, you might do a little bit better with the matte powder product, just because it is one that doesn't need a ton of thought to look super beautiful. This cream product from Charlotte just requires a little bit extra, and it just more so speaks to the application. That's my thought, because if you do pick up just a random bronzer brush that you've used for powders in the past, it's going to really let you down with this product because it's going to come out really chunky, really uneven, and it's not going to give you that flawless look. Benefits to both of them. Both of them look really stunning on the skin. Both of them do not emphasize texture. So regardless of whether you're doing the powder or whether you're doing the cream, either or, they do really, really well together. I will say the cream one, it does set down fully, I would say, but it has a semi-tack, not quite super sticky, but just a little bit, enough to notice. So for myself, I actually use them together. That's really what I do. And I'm going to actually pick up the medium one in this cream bronzer and see if it'll help me out a little bit, because right now I feel like I'm contouring with this and then putting bronzer with this. So it's not actually the same shade layered twice and adding some, dimension to the look with some cream and then powder over top. This is really like contouring first and then adding some warmth. So it's a little bit different. If you want an even more precise application with the bronzer here, the matte one, you can still use a denser brush as well if you'd like, and that's totally fine as well. But both of them sit on the skin beautifully. This one is obviously more matte. The Beautiful Skin Glow Bronzer has a glow to it compared to the matte, so that's also a big distinction. This is one that will not offer that glow. It's just a really nice airbrushed, beautiful bronzer that adds that nice warmth to the skin. This is one that actually adds a little bit of a glow as well. So I do think this is sort of along the same lines as her Beautiful Skin Foundation, where it offers a lot of luminosity. And that's really what this product does here. So it's kind of like if you don't mind the cream product, you will really love the glow that this bronzer brings. If you want something that's a lot more matte and really has that nice, like chiseled look, but nothing too glowy, this is perfect as well. And like I said, if you're like me, you can end up using the two together to add some dimension there and to really make your bronzer last. But when it comes to longevity for both of them, I actually felt like both of them had similar wear times. This bronzer actually lasts, in my opinion, a good 12 hours before I felt like it was actually fading visibly, and same with the powder one. Granted, when it comes to applying them, because they're significantly different, I do find I'm layering this one a little bit, because this one is kind of like a medium opacity upon a first application to the cheek, and then you can really blend it in and diffuse, whereas the cream one offers a lot more pigment faster. So you are having to be a little bit more precise and a little bit more careful. Given that it's a super pigmented cream, of course it blends nice, but it is very picky with how you're supposed to blend it properly with that really nice dense brush or a sponge. It does set, obviously, because it's a cream versus a powder. You can blend that one a little bit longer compared to the cream. The cream is one that gives you a little bit of a time limit. When you are buffing, make sure you're getting in there quickly because it will start to set probably within the first couple of minutes. For those wondering, both of these products are made in Italy. I do feel like both of these are really high quality, and it's interesting how we have 4 shades in the bronzer and 4 shades in this cream bronzer. According to Charlotte, she does recommend that you do pick the bronzer shade that you were in this one. So that was my error there, but I just wanted to point out that this fair shade does seem to be a little bit more of a cooler toned overall. Now, interestingly, on Charlotte Tilbury's website, the matte bronzer also has hyaluronic acid in it. And so compared to the cream, both of them have that really nice smoothing ingredient for the skin. But this one obviously feels significantly lighter because it is a powder versus the cream one feels a little bit more like a presence on the skin. I mean, obviously, if you buff it in, it still feels very lightweight, but compared to both sides of my face, when I was comparing them, the powder side felt a little bit lighter, of course, and that was kind of something that I figured. Both of them come in very large compacts as well, so I'm gonna see what we have here for the amount of product. Now keep in mind they are different formulations, so it's kind of hard to tell if you're getting the exact same amount of product in each because they might have some weight differences in the formula. But we have the Airbrush bronzer at 16 grams, and we have the Beautiful Skin at 21 grams. So it looks like this one is a lot heavier, but you just never know because you won't need as much for this one. I don't know. I don't necessarily think that when it comes to price per amount of product, of course it's something to consider, but when we're talking about completely different products as well, sometimes there's weight differences, and for this one, you're gonna get your money's worth compared to this one as well, because this one is really, really pigmented. So I don't think you're going to need as much on a regular basis as this one. Because the compacts are so large for both of them, you can see that this is one that can be used for all over the body as well. And that's actually something that I haven't yet done. I'll be honest. I'm not really someone that does a ton of self-tan. If I do, it's very rarely. So maybe with like a lower cut top or something, just adding a little bit of dimension or bronze on the collarbone or something could be a really nice idea for summer. Now here's a bonus tip for both of these products. If you are one that just wants to do a one and done really quick like eye makeup look, I've actually used this as just kind of like in my crease line for a quick eyeshadow look to add a little bit of dimension there, and it works perfectly. But because it has that warmth to it, for this one, because it's a little bit on the cooler side, I think I'm actually going to try the medium shade and see if it's a little bit warmer. I do think that this formulation is going to be really beautiful, especially for textured lids, because it'll just glide over. But this is a cooler tone shade for me overall, and I do think it's going to make me look a little too chiseled there. I kind of want some warmth around my eyelid. I think I'm going to try the medium shade for that, but formula-wise, I think both would work really nicely as eyeshadow if you're interested in that for a quick, fast eye look that just looks really put together but is super easy. So now you can see the bronzer on my face right now. It's a combination of both of them. The cool toned cream airbrush matte on top of that, and that's how I've been using it, but I can't wait to test more shades out. Let me know which product you think is best for you, or if you already own both of them like myself, because I mean, that's me. That's the story of my life. I love Charlotte Tilbury, and this is a really beautiful, creamy, blendable cream bronzer. And this one is a beautiful matte option if you're interested. Really just depends on the type of texture that you go for, but I do think the matte bronzer is going to be a bit more beginner friendly versus the cream one. Until my next one, guys, take care and stay safe. Bye, guys.